Wrestle Talk podcast.
Without the night out, you're tuning to Wrestle Talk. 657-383-1521. We'll be discussing WWE, NXT, Lucha Underground, ROH, fantasy wrestling, and we have some of the best damn interviews for professional and independent wrestling that you've ever heard.
And I'm Joe Lamb. Ladies and gentlemen, 913-325, you can put out on the Wrestle Talk podcast. John Renee, who we speaking with?
It's your mama. What up, Jonesy? Put me back on hold, baby. Let's do this.
All right, so let's do this. One, enjoy the ride. What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? It is Wednesday night. It is 8 o'clock. That means one thing and one thing only. If you are listening to the sound of my voice, you have made yourself a very, very, very smart decision. You have tuned in to the Wrestle Talk podcast with John Renee, and oh my goodness, tonight is going to be an interesting night. There has been a lot of things that have been going on. We expect to have a lot of phone calls tonight. The phone lines are already blowing up. It's going to be a really amazing night. We got the High Spots segment. We got the Shoot and Shout segment. We got the Wrestle Talk podcast game show challenge. We got the Snippets of Truth. We usually would have the fantasy wrestling segment, but we're not allowed to talk about that. I am under contract. I'm not allowed to even mention that name anymore. So I'm not allowed to mention that name anymore. We'll get into it later on. We got the Snippets of Truth. We got, and that's not enough, ladies and gentlemen, we got John Arezzi. I probably pronounced that wrong, and I'm sure that tonight I was going to correct me on that.
I am.
And Pinky from KCXW. Wow, what a freaking show we got tonight. Let me go ahead and do what I need to do and bring in the man, the myth, the legend, the man that needs no introduction. The night out. What is up, sir? How are you?
Que pasa, que pasa, que pasa, loyal members of the Wrestle Talk family. Your boy, the Night Owl, my man Jonesy, in full effect. First off, let me start off by apologizing. Okay, we got a terrible echo here. Let me start off by apologizing. We were not here last week. There's been a lot of things that have happened, both in my personal and professional life, that some are privy to, some are not. The reason the show was not here last week was because of me. Joe is super cool, and played it off or whatever. But last week, and really, I think it's the first show we've ever missed in 232 episodes, other than when we voluntarily took a break around the holidays or something. I take pride in being here every single week. A lot of you guys that are my friends, that are my mentors, that are my constituents, know that the secret to this has nothing to do with this being a great show. Though I personally think it's a very good show, not a great show. It really all ties back to the fact that we're here either every Wednesday or every Thursday, depending on kind of what season it is. We are here, and we are here for you, the members of the Wrestle Talk family. But last week, due to some issues that I was dealing with, I had some separation anxiety. Some of you know probably what I'm talking about. And I wasn't feeling up to it. And then when Joe kind of found out what I was going through, he really wasn't feeling up to it. And really, we let you guys down. So that's why I want to apologize. But I don't anticipate that to continue to be the case. I've moved on. We're on to different things now. And I'm just grateful to still be here and to still have the opportunity to broadcast with you guys, not to keep going too much into personal, but I did suffer a significant flood in my house, over 3 inches. It's always some jerk. We did suffer a major flood here in the Martinez household about a week ago, and we are just now getting back to normal. I literally finished putting things back in the studio here about 45 minutes ago. I mean, literally 2 hours ago, none of this was here. So God is good. It gives us the opportunity to be here, and I know there are some wonderful people watching, and you're like, Night Owl, stop blabbing. We want to talk about wrestling. We are going to get into that. But before we do, just a couple of quick shout-outs. Real quick, huge shout-out to Pinky, who's already watching. Shout-out to Assad. Shout-out to Mike. Shout-out to Sonny. Shout-out to Dylan. Shout-out to Marcus. Shout-out to Joe, and everybody else that is tuning in live during episode 232. And Curtis, who just popped up. What's up, brother? What's up, brother? What's up, brother? Guys, this is sure to be a good show. John Arezzi, one of the founders, in my opinion, of pro wrestling media. If you guys are fans of the dirt sheets and things of that nature, he really was the guy who created that genre. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. Before the stuff that you guys see on YouTube, before all the craziness back from the 90s, in the late 70s, early 80s, the guy that was really covering wrestling without not necessarily worrying about what WWF thought about it or anybody else thought about it. He was covering wrestling all the way up until the steroid trial. And then during that time, his cutoff, the cutoff happened between him and WWF. At that time, he still had a pretty good relationship. But when he tried to cover that honestly and genuinely, they cut him off. And now it's almost impossible for media to land a WWE superstar. As you guys know, we've had some Hall of Famers and stuff, guys that are no longer under contract. One thing we've not done here on the Wrestle Talk podcast is talk to guys that are currently under contract. And that is the way it is because of the situation with John Arezzi, and we're going to cover that in great detail with him. That said, we will not have an FWWC segment, and I did just say that, violating a couple of rules, but hey, it's our show. I can do what the hell I want. That is no longer part of what we do here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. I don't really have a whole lot of explanations. There's just a lot of stuff that goes into that, and I'm not going to spend the whole show talking about it. So if anybody from the group wants to call in and be a part of the show, I welcome you to be here. You're still my friends. You're still my family. It's just we've kind of moved on from that. So you're more than welcome to call in and be a part of the show. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. All that said, Jonesy, I am in the mood for a frosty libation. So why don't we go ahead and hit the national anthem as we ask everybody to respectfully remove their caps, place their hands over their hearts as we pay homage to the greatest country on God's green earth, and that's America, damn it.
Oh, say, can you see and righteous? Uh-oh. I'll make up for it now.
No, you won't.
Oh, the land of the free.
It's tear to my eye every single time, man. I missed that last week, and I'm telling you, Renee apologizes for missing last week, and I apologize for not having Rick Maverick, Ozzy Gallagher, and the volatile Curtis Brown on the show.
Why do you do this to me?
That's what I apologize.
Why? See, I was going through some difficult emotional roller coasters last week, and then you start bringing up names like that, bro. You start bringing up names like that. It makes me want to take another week off. But you know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to be able to do that because we are here and we're here to stay, right, Jonesy?
Absolutely. We are not going anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, if I didn't go anywhere when I only had one person listening, there's no way I'm going anywhere when I have thousands of people listening. There's no way. I mean, think about it, Renee. Think about it, Night Owl. Thousands of people tune into the Wrestle Talk every single week to hear Jonesy's voice.
It's true.
Think about that.
It's true. It's true. Really, the only reason people tune in is to hear Jonesy's voice, and I'm sure it has very, very little to do that we have some of the best damn interviews really anywhere in the pro wrestling business. And you know what? We're gonna have two of those once again tonight, dude, because I'm not just excited about talking to John, but we're also gonna get to talk to Pinky, who's a guy who trained at KCX, or I should say XWC. He works KCXW, or used to work KCXW. We're going to get some clarification on that a little bit later in the second hour. But now he is a mainstay over at KWA, the Kansas Wrestling Alliance, which is the biggest wrestling alliance in the Midwest. It now consists of 5 or 6 different promotions. So I think it's pretty freaking incredible that you're talking to a guy that went from just a local Kansas City school trainee. Now he's managing, now he's reffing. He used to be in the fantasy group that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So I'm excited to talk to him as well. But as excited as I am to talk to Pinky and John Arezzi, I want to hear from the Wrestle Talk podcast family, okay? Despite what I said a little bit earlier, you guys can call in and talk about whatever you want. This is the High Spot segment. That's always been the platform that we provide to the fans, okay? And that's not going to change, okay? I'm not going to be like, well, you can't, you know, whatever. If you guys want to talk about it, that's what this segment is for. For the next 20 minutes, we want to talk to you about anything in the world of pro wrestling, okay? AEW, WWE, you guys want to talk about Impact, you guys want to talk about something in the indies, something in the news, this is your time. All you got to do is dial that number. We got a lot of people on the Facebook Live tonight. It's very, very refreshing. If one of you guys could do me the favor and type that number into the thread, that number being 657-383-1521. Again, that's 657-383-1521, because we want to engage and interact with all of you fine folks on tonight's edition of the High Spot segment. That said, Jonesy, what are you sipping on tonight before we cue up that music for High Spots, man?
I am sipping on some little highlights that I had left over from the exciting Super Bowl that we had.
Oh my goodness. I sense a hint of sarcasm in your voice, Jonesy. Well, you know what? We'll get into the Super Bowl, halftime heat, and many other things in tonight's edition of the High Spot segment. Intern Timmy, you know what to do, baby. Cue up that music. Make sure you leave it playing in the background real low as we get in to episode 232's edition of the High Spot segment. Boom!
Hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em high. People hit 'em low, hit 'em low, hit 'em low.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this FW. Let's do this High Spot segment. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and start it off real quick, and I gotta say, you know, this may be a little shoot and shout, and it may not be the most popular thing, but I am on Facebook with a lot of, and I got to tell you, I am so tired of hearing about AEW. I am so tired of hearing every single wrestler that leaves the WWE is going to AEW. They're talking about Randy Orton's going to AEW. They're talking about Shinsuke Nakamura's going
Undertaker.
to AEW. John Moxley. Undertaker's going to
I'm not buying it.
AEW. And look, ladies and gentlemen, here's my thing. I really am excited for the AEW as a wrestling fan, because it's like when I was a younger kid, you'd watch WCW, you'd watch WWE. So as a wrestling fan, I am so excited about it. But guys, AEW is not going to take out the WWE right away. It's not going to happen. As much as you want it to happen, it's not going to happen. But I must say, I am really excited about everything that they are doing. You know, as of right now, they're basically a T-shirt company. But come on.
Hey, wait. So wait a minute. I gotta jump in and say this, because my boy Curtis posted that the other day, and I said, FYI, they also sell hats. Just saying. So they also sell hats. I'm just saying, dog. I'm just saying, you know.
Oh my goodness. So basically, what I want to know, when before I get into some of to check some of these phone calls, is what are your thoughts about all the buzz that AEW is getting? Do you think that it's too much hype for a promotion that hasn't even really started yet? That's the question.
All right, well, Jonesy, let me start off by saying this. I don't believe that there's ever such a thing as too much hype, especially because none of the publicity has been negative. So I'm good with that, okay? Here's where I start to have the issue. When other wonderful promotions like Wow Women of Wrestling, which is already on TV, which already has a TV deal, which has a rich backer, just as rich as the backer for AEW, gets no love. And it really, and I know this is not shoot and shout, because I'm starting to get all heated like I do during shoot and shout. So I apologize, mi gente, I do. But you're so excited about AEW. Why? Why? They've not had a show yet. And now you could say, well, they had All In. Well, they've already announced, All or Nothing. That's all great, guys. But the show itself, the AEW show, has not happened, okay? There is a lot to be excited about what's already legitimately going on. And a lot of you guys, and I'm not trying to single anybody out, everybody's got different tastes, so maybe nobody wants to watch women's wrestling. That's cool. But what frustrates me is that people are so excited over something that they've never seen, but they're quick to ignore something that they won't even take the time to check out. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not, listen, WoW is not cutting me a check, okay? I'll just be straight up honest. But as far as I'm concerned, why not give something like that an opportunity? You're excited about AEW, but you've never been to an independent show in your own hometown? You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man. Like, you got to give a little bit of yourself. You know, you got to give a little bit of yourself if you really, truly claim to love professional wrestling, okay? I don't know how AEW is going to be delivered.
Absolutely.
Will I have to pay additional? Is it going to be broadcast? Is it going to be on Fight TV? I don't know. There's a lot to yet be decided. What I can tell you, though, and I'll be the first to admit it, some of the signings are very intriguing. Just today, Jimmy Havoc, probably one of, if not the biggest name in the independent wrestling circuit, committed to signing with AEW. And so did the Lucha Bros, Phoenix and Pentagon Jr., who I've had the pleasure of meeting before, okay? So I get the excitement, guys, but there is actually wrestling going on right now that you can go see. When we get a little bit closer to All or Nothing, or Double or Nothing, I'm sorry, then okay, I get it. But at this point, I don't know what that date is. Maybe I should. I have a wrestling podcast. I should be on top of that. I apologize if I'm not. But the bottom line is, it hasn't happened yet. So let's calm down. Okay, everybody pull your britches up a little bit, okay? And let's enjoy what's readily available to us. Because there's a lot of great wrestling out and about. And I'll tell you what, bro, over the next couple of weeks, just here locally, Jonesy, I know you can name some off. Look, I've got Journey Pro on Thursday in February. I've got KCXW on a Saturday, and then the following week, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's early in March, I've got MEW, XWE. I mean, and there's tons of shows going on over in the St. Louis area. I mean, there's just so much to talk about, and we seem to be wasting a lot of time talking about a promotion that hasn't even had a show yet. So I know it's all tongue-in-cheek, but yes, AEW is nothing more than a T-shirt and hat company, and if you got a problem with that, you're wrong. Let's go to some callers, baby. What's the deal? Phone lines are on fire tonight, bro.
I definitely agree. Let's get some of these callers on, because we only got about 10 minutes until we get to talk to our first guest. So the first caller we got coming on is Siri. What do you got for us tonight, sir?
See, funny thing in the world. He just said that like you have to enjoy what you have right now, right? That's what Renee just said.
Well,
So
Theory, you're a poet. You're a very prolific poet. Let me sum it up like this, okay? Yesterday is the past. Tomorrow is the future. Today is the present, in the words of Big Daddy P. Today is all we have, and it is a gift. So let's enjoy today and not be so obsessed with tomorrow. That's all I'm saying.
But wait. I was always taught that the future is now. It starts today. So we shouldn't kill, the greatest things that we have going on. For example, I'm here to help save the FWWC. It's been around for ages and forever. All I hear and all I see on my timeline is save the FWWC, which is my home, sir. We need Mr. Night Owl to not retire on us. We love him, and we care a great deal about Mr. Night Owl, and we need to stay around. That is all I have. I know that there's other FWWC superstars, past, present, and future, that want to speak to you about staying around. We love you. We love you. Please don't leave us.
Wow. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Theory with some heartfelt words about the Night Owl and not wanting him to go away. We definitely appreciate you calling in, Theory. Let's go ahead and get in the next caller. We got it coming on, and that would be Mr. One and only Curtis Black. What's going on, sir? What do you got for us tonight for High Spot?
Well, I was gonna try to actually talk about wrestling, and then you guys covered the Jimmy Havoc going to AEW stuff, and so with that having already been covered, Night Owl, what are you doing? Like, you saw what happened on Monday. I won't say the letters because I'm not allowed to say that.
Well, listen, you're a caller. You can say whatever you want. I mean, it's us that are restricted, not you guys. You guys are the callers. You can say whatever you want.
You saw what happened on Monday, the FWWC. You saw what the evil individual, who I don't want to be on his bad side any more than I already am, did. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time because, again, I may have helped organize something tonight, but there's other people who want to make their feelings heard, but just think about what's happened. We do care about you, and I was one of the first people to say, hey, maybe we need to leave this be until that happens. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna let other people say their piece, but just know that we do care about you, but something has to be done. This isn't fair to everybody else in the backstage. So we love you. I'm gonna let you go here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Curtis Black. Once again, talking about the Night Owl and his retirement and whatnot. Let's go ahead and continue on. The next caller we're gonna bring on is one of our favorite callers. He's always got a lot to say. Sonny Money Mayo.
Bang, bang!
Hey, Wrestle Talk Podcast. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Hey, I just want to say, while this call is going on, excuse my background noise. I got my 2-year-old Max Mayo sitting here giving me some Kurt Hennig drop kicks on my bed as I got this phone call going on. So if you hear a little screaming, that's just me trying to kick out at 2. But, hey, guys, listen. Renee, I know you hate spoilers, brother. You're my brother, and I know you hate spoilers, but I've got some breaking news, and I have to drop it, and it's going to be exclusive for you guys. My sources...
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Don't fire off. Hit it.
There it is.
Gotta have the drop, dog. Gotta have it. All right.
My good sources, Joey Numbers over in Brooklyn, he has told me, and it is confirmed, that Joe Lance's contract with Wrestle Talk Podcast will be up at the end of the year, and he is going to sign with AEW.
That's right. I am going to sign with AEW, and I am bringing the volatile Curtis Wild, Ozzy Gallagher, and the Rick Maverick with me.
That's some bullshit.
I've lost total control of this show. Man, okay. Well,
the real reason.
Geez, Louise.
The real reason I called in this evening, guys, is look. You guys know I'm always a huge fan of professional wrestling, and especially independent wrestling. I haven't really been on the WWE bandwagon in some months, more or less to my work schedule, and I really haven't been on the wrestling bandwagon at all in the past couple months because of my schedule. But I tell you, one company that has really caught my eye, and I've made a point to take time out of my busy schedule, being a hard-working guy and trying to be the best father I can be. I made time out of my schedule every weekend to watch at least 2 or 3 episodes of Major League Wrestling, MLW. Now, I know everybody in the internet wrestling community is going nuts over AEW and all these signings, and there's a lot of good things going on with WWE, in my opinion. The storyline with Becky Lynch and whatnot, and I got to go to the Wrestle Talk podcast Royal Rumble watch party. That was great, so I got to watch the Rumble. But guys, I'm putting over Major League Wrestling. I think it's a great, great promotion. I could see that sticking around longer than AEW, and that's not to discredit what Cody and the Young Bucks and all those guys are doing. But what Major League Wrestling is doing it was a promotion that was around in the early 2000s, and they decided to bring it back. And, from everything to the commentary, to the production, to the workers that they're bringing in, and just the overall show and the overall feel, I feel like that's a real company that's a company to really, really keep your eye on in 2019. They did some great shows already in 2018, and they're not doing anything except climbing and succeeding. So, Sonny Money Mayo's putting his stamp of approval on Major League Wrestling. That's about all I had, guys. I'm going to jump off of here. I know you guys got a guest coming on. I can't wait to hear him. You guys keep rocking it. I'll be watching you and sharing you on Facebook Live. Thanks, fellas.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sonny Money Mayo. Always great to hear from Sonny Money. Isn't that right, Renee?
It is absolutely great. And I'm overwhelmed by a lot of these messages, by the way. I want everybody who's using that save FWWC. I want you to know, man, I'm not upset with y'all. I get where you're coming from, and it means a lot to me. What also means a lot to me is that somebody agrees with me. Okay, MLW, another great example. Okay, another great example of something that's already happening that people are not paying attention to because they're so busy waiting for AEW. I mean, damn. Okay? Dude, I'm not upset. I'm happy that everybody's so fired up about it. But again, T-shirt company, until we have a card, until the show happens, it's nothing more than that. I have great faith that they're going to do a great job. But for now, a lot of people are missing out on some extraordinary entertainment because they're unwilling to give something else a chance. I highly recommend you guys, even more than the MLW thing, go out to a local independent show. I don't care what part of the country or really what part of the world you're in. If you have access to indie wrestling, get your stinking asses out there. Those are direct orders from your boy, the Night Owl, and Jonesy. Gosh darn it. I got a question about the FWWC that I'm going to answer here in just a moment as we wait for John Arezzi to come on, founder of Pro Wrestling Spotlight, former member of the Freddie Blassie fan club. He may still be. Who knows? But let's get through a couple more callers. Intern Timmy, who do we got coming up next?
Yeah.
Whoa, more breaking news.
Well, we do have some more callers coming on, but I do have to announce this, and I just saw this. Ladies and gentlemen, in honor of African American Month, the WWE has decided to honor Akeem, the African Dream, in this month's Black History Month, ladies and gentlemen. Akeem, the African Dream. This gentleman, do you know what I'm talking about, Renee?
I do.
You know what I'm talking about?
Wait a minute. Akeem the African Dream isn't even African, dude. Right? Like, what are you talking about?
Hey, he was a keen to African thing. He was a jive monkey, man. He was jive, dude. He was jive.
Did you just say monkey?
Let's go ahead and get another.
What the hell, dude? You're gonna get us kicked off the air. That's so racist. All right, let's go.
No, man. Anyways, let's go ahead and get on the next caller. We got the Bishop. Welcome to the show, sir.
What's up, Jonesy? What's up, Night Owl? How y'all doing this evening?
Greetings and salutations, my brother. What's going on? Brother Bishop Elman, I should say. What's going on, man? Thank you for calling back into the show. It's always great to hear from you. What's on your mind tonight, man?
Well, I'm also here to try to save the FWWC. Now, Night Owl, I've only been with FWWC, or sorry, I shouldn't say that. I've only been here for a little while, but I feel like I've made a bit of a splash. And I just want to say thank you to Jonesy and to you, for calling in and listening to me. And, one thing that you told me, you asked me was, are willing to pay the cost to be the boss? And my answer is still the same. And I don't want to see FWWC close, because it's been a big part of my life, and these last few months have been incredible. I've met some amazing people and friendships that I feel that will last a long time. And, hopefully I can get to know you a little more better, bro.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Elman. We appreciate that. I do believe we have one more caller, and then we're gonna get to John Arezzi, because I'm very, very excited. I've got people messaging me in my inbox here, just telling me, hey, we're here for John, and we're gonna get to John. He's actually already on hold and he's tuning in. I want to go ahead and get this last caller in, and I'm gonna address this question that I got from Trishan a few minutes ago, just in case people are wondering. So let's go ahead and throw to the last caller during the high spot segment, Jonesy, and then we'll move on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring on the former general manager of the Blue brand on the former group, aside El Luchador de Kansas City. What's going on, sir?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? With Night Owl and
What's up, Assad?
Joe. Alrighty. Man, I just want to talk some wrestling right now. Everybody knows what took place on Sunday. Probably the most boringest Super Bowl of all time. But the one show that everybody was talking about was, of course, WWE Halftime Heat. I guess this show took place at the WWE Performance Center, which was the first time. Seeing Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and Adam Cole take on, who was it? Oh, yes, Velveteen Dream and Aleister Black, and, of course, Ricochet. I tell you, that show was something else, much better than what I saw at the halftime show at the Super Bowl on Sunday.
All right. Well, I think a lot of people share your sentiments. Assad, anything else for us tonight?
Well, and I also just want to say that, I much love for the company that I was with for 4 years. And I know for a fact that someday in the near future it will be back, but I know I'll be there for the long haul, no matter what, whether I'm a competitor or if I have to work behind the scenes, just like you did in the past.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Assad, very, very much for that. And you know what? I do want to address the whole FWWC thing, the Fantasy Wrestling Group thing, but I want to respectfully transition over to John Arezzi, because he is our guest, and his time is very, very valuable. He's a very, very busy businessman. So we'll get to that after the break, okay? And I'll give you guys an extended response and give you guys a chance to call back and ask me questions, and that way we can kind of put this behind us and move on. So, intern Timmy, get that music ready because it is time for our first featured guest of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, when you want to talk about an innovator in the world of professional wrestling, our following guest is nothing short of being an innovator. A lot of you guys that listen to the Wrestle Talk podcast are fans of the shoot interviews, right? You guys like, you guys love Melzer and you love guys, all these guys. This guy was the first in many, many departments. He was the first to throw the Night of Champions, not necessarily conferences, but they were kind of like when you go to those Comic-Cons or whatever, he would bring some of the best wrestlers in history. Classy Freddie Blassie, Ivan Koloff, Handsome Harley Race, and the list goes on and on. And not only that, he also founded the historic Pro Wrestling Spotlight, where not only did he interview a lot of big-time pro wrestlers, but over time, they kind of became their own entity and started to call or cover pro wrestling in a very neutral fashion, which in the short run, in my opinion, ended up costing him a little bit, but in the long run, kind of made him an icon of the sport, especially in the genre of media. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast for the very first time, the one and only John Arezzi.
Well, theme song brings back memories to me. How you doing, guys?
What up, Johnny? How's it going, man?
How's it going, sir? Welcome to the show.
Hey, man, well, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me on. I appreciate it very, very much, and thank you for finding that song, which is a Kansas song, Song for America, that I actually used when I first launched Pro Wrestling Spotlight at my college radio station back in 1975. So that song has some very fond memories for me.
Well, that's awesome, John, and I'm very glad that we were able to find it. Tonight, you'll be talking to yours truly, Renee the Night Owl, and my partner in crime, Jonesy, a.k.a. Joe Lance. Joe, why don't you jump on in here, man? I know you're excited to talk to John. I know we've had conversations off the air about some of the things that you wanted to discuss. I'll go ahead and let you take the lead on this one, man.
I do. The one thing I guess I wanted to start off with is the Pro Wrestling Spotlight radio show. How exactly did that start out?
Well, as I mentioned, I was a wrestling fan for many, many years, ringside photographer, just Freddie Blassie fan club. And when I went to college in Boston, Massachusetts, I started at a little 2-year school to study radio and television. And they had a college radio station, and there were open auditions for the new students coming in. And I wanted to do a wrestling talk show. I knew a lot of the guys in the business from covering and shooting photographs in Boston and Madison Square Garden and Philadelphia. So the program director, which was another student, gave me the opportunity to do Pro Wrestling Spotlight. And that's where it actually launched in October of 1975 as a college show. But that was more of a kayfabe type of show. You know, the guys went on in characters. I put the sport over as a sport. Not talking about angles, finishes, storylines, booking. But it was kind of just like a kayfabe show, and I brought on, the Blassies of the world, the Grand Wizards, Lou Albano, Bugsy McGraw, Kevin Sullivan, but always stayed in character. So that's where the Pro Wrestling Spotlight started. And then when I left wrestling for the very first time, it's kind of ironic that I keep coming back to it. That I went to work for the New York Mets out of college and went to work in the minor leagues, and then found a country artist named Patty Loveless that I helped promote and started a music marketing and management company up in New York. And then that company went under in 1989, and I really was kind of like, well, what do I do now? And I said, well, I really love pro wrestling still. I've always watched it, and that was, through the heyday of WrestleMania 1 and just kept following it, and still had some ties into it. And I decided to start the talk show, Pro Wrestling Spotlight, and I was able to convince a local Long Island radio station, 1440 AM WNYG in Babylon, New York, which is where I lived, to give me a shot and do a wrestling talk show. And I had to buy the time, which I believe is about $200 an hour back then. So I purchased the airtime, sold sponsorships, and that's how Pro Wrestling Spotlight, the commercial version, launched on April the 9th, and that was in 1989. And my very first guest was Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. So the show started as a kayfabe show. It started with wrestlers being in character, and that lasted pretty much all of 1 week in a way, because the second week I had Bruno Sammartino on, and he came on basically talking about all the things that were wrong going on in pro wrestling at the time in 1989, and I aired that interview, and the WWF did not want me to play that interview because it was kind of disparaging to them. So even though they cooperated with show number 1, they stopped cooperating with me as of show number 2. The show kind of evolved into a show. It actually turned in direction in the middle of 1989 when Ricky the Dragon Steamboat left WCW under a contract dispute, and he came on my show to talk about that. And that's what turned it. That's what turned Dave Meltzer onto it, and Wade Keller and Steve Beverly, who had a newsletter called Matt Watch at the time. And it kind of turned from there, and then it was kind of like all bets were off, and everybody's going to come on the show, who wanted to come on the show to kind of just tear the curtain down. And that's what started the first real, true call-in, regular no kayfabe show. So I'm really proud of what it became from there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and just looking at some of the wrestlers that you've been in contact with, Baby Crippler Stevens, Ivan Koloff, Handsome Holly Race, Classy, Freddy Wassy, Ernie Land, the list goes on and on. But the most impressive one that I've seen is one of my favorite wrestlers from when, my first wrestling event in watching was WrestleMania 3 you had interactions with Andre the Giant. Can you talk about your interactions with Andre?
Well, Andre never appeared on Pro Wrestling Spotlight, but I certainly interacted with Andre back in the 70s, and that's when I was a ringside photographer at Madison Square Garden. And after each and every show, when the show was over with, we'd go over to this place called the Savoy Bar, which was located across the street from the Edison Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, and that's where everybody used to go after the show to have some cocktails and drinks. And Andre was a frequent visitor when he was on the card, and that's why I got to know Andre a little bit, and actually was able to even have dinner with him one night with the wrestling photographer George Napolitano and Mr. Fuji, ironically. And Professor Tanaka, and we just went to a bar and just hung out, and I witnessed firsthand the enormity of the thirst that Andre had for beer. So
I can relate.
There was quite a few brewskis that night with Andre the Giant, but he obviously was such an impactful performer and a game changer in the world of pro wrestling. Early on when I was a kid, I used to film the wrestling matches at the Garden. I'd bring in a little 8mm camera, so I was able to capture some of those early Andre the Giant appearances. And just recently with my Twitter account at John Arezzi, I shared a few little clips of some of those historic matches with Andre at the Garden.
Absolutely. Speaking of Andre the Giant. And last thing I wanted to talk about before I talk to my co-host Renee is going through the information that I was able to get on you. It looks like you were responsible for introducing Vince Russo to the world of professional wrestling.
That is correct. That is correct. Vince, I was introduced to Vince Russo when the Pro Wrestling Spotlight was on radio station WGBB on Long Island. And one of my listeners a kid by the name of Andrew Goldberger who had who was participating and had a fan club for Jim Cornette, ironically, was a regular listener of my show. And he said there's this guy named Vince Russo who has a video store out on Long Island. It's called Will the Throw Video. And he has a lot of wrestling videotapes in there. And he suggested that I contact Vince. And he suggested to Vince that Vince contact me to see if there was a way for Vince to advertise his video store on my show, because he featured a lot of wrestling videotapes. So that's kind of how that happened. I had a meeting with Russo, and he was at the time looking to book some pro wrestlers into his video store for personal appearances, and I was able to negotiate a deal with him and Honky Tonk Man and brought him in. And then Vince basically wanted to partner with me. And this is late in 1991. He was like, listen, you got such a big fan base. I'm a journalist. I have a journalism degree. I would love to be in the business. I'd love to have a newsletter. I'd love to partner with you. I'd love to take the radio show off of Long Island and go to a bigger market in New York City. And so, I mean, we formed this partnership, which was very, very short-term, short-lived, basically because Vince had a different idea and direction of the show. I recently did a podcast with him on YouTube, and he readily admitted that he really didn't do the research necessary to find out what I was all about. And at that time, it was strictly, talking about what was going on in the business, covering the scandals that were happening at that time. And Vince did not agree with that direction. So after a tumultuous 3 months of being in business together, we had a very public and very ugly split. And that took place in March of 1992. And quite frankly, we became enemies for a long time after that, because I felt he used me to get into the wrestling business. And then before you know it, he's working, having his own radio show called Vicious Vincent's World of Wrestling, a lot of trash talk about me on that show. And then over the course of time, he becomes hired, becomes a magazine editor for WWF, and then on the creative team as a writer. And he really escalated. I mean, he really was very ambitious, very aggressive, and he was able to pretty much use me to get into the wrestling business. And it wasn't until most recently that my nephew, who was listening to one of his podcasts, sent me a copy of it where he was saying some things that were kind of disparaging and not really accurate, kind of revisionist history in a way. And he had an open challenge to anybody who disagreed with him to go on his podcast, and I accepted that. I reached out to them and had a really good discussion with Vince that was 27 years in the making. I was able to speak my mind and talk about what happened back in the day, hear his version. And I left that podcast really satisfied with the way it turned out, and that I was able to forgive him, and I do to this day. I do forgive him, and we move on with our lives. And so that's what I did, and that's my story of my history with Vince.
Nice. Very, very, very interesting story. I don't want to take up all of the time, so Renee, I'm sure that you're itching to ask whatever questions that you have, so take it away, Night Owl.
Well, thank you, Jonesy. I do appreciate it. And John, if we haven't said this already, we very, very much appreciate your time. We know you've gone on, after your stint in pro wrestling, to become a very successful businessman up in the upper northeast of the United States. So we want to congratulate you on that and thank you, tell you how much we appreciate your time. My very first question, though, is this. I actually was so intrigued by you, and it had nothing to do with anything that you basically had done in terms of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. I saw you pop up on Twitter, and as a good journalist, which I consider myself to be, I said, this guy has history in the business. And at the time, you weren't posting about WWE or Vince Russo or none of that. You were talking about Mil Máscaras. You were talking about your time down in Mexico and some of those things that you had an opportunity to do that I don't think that you've had the platform recently to talk about. So just to kind of steer us away from that whole Vince Russo thing, which we can come back to if people want us to talk about that, I'm more interested to hear about some of the incredible experiences that you had. Because there was a guy here just on our Facebook Live feed that said, wow, this guy sounds like he's been around forever. I wonder how many people he's had a chance to talk to and meet. So not that you need to go through a full list, but can you maybe talk to us about some of the highlights about talking to really some of the most tremendous and notable personalities in the world of pro wrestling? Because from what I understand, not only did you cover Andre the Giant, you were there for his very first appearance at Madison Square Garden. And we all know anybody who's anybody wants to perform at Madison Square Garden. And Michael Jordan himself said, outside of playing in Chicago, you know where I wanted to have a good game? Madison Square Garden. You were there, man, ground zero, covering wrestling.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it
it's
really
golden.
was, and it was kind of a great time of my life back when I was just a teenager. And yeah, it was Andre the Giant. I was a fan. I wasn't a reporter. I was just there as a fan. My first live show was in 1971 at the Garden, and I went to every single Madison Square Garden wrestling event from 1971 in August right through the time that I was in college, and up until the time I was actually in the ring, and that streak of every single Madison Square Garden event carried through to February 10th of 1978. Then I fought Backlund, beat Billy Graham, and then I stopped going basically because the WWE didn't want me ringside anymore because I just wrestled at their TV tapings, about 3 weeks before against Dusty Rhodes. So anyway, I got to interview with everybody: Mil Mascaras, Freddie Blassie, Captain Lou Albano, the Valiant Brothers, Staniman Stasiak, Bruno Sammartino, Ivan Putski. I mean, every single major superstar that was in the territory during that time period, I shot photographs of and was able to interview. And the beauty of it is that every single one of those interviews I still have on cassette tape, which I recently uncovered. So we're going to find a way to get that out there to the public so they can relive some of these memories that I had over the course of the last 40 years. I know you mentioned Mascaras, and I did have an opportunity to work with him towards the latter part of my days, and as a promoter, utilizing him in a few shows in Arizona back in 1976, 1996, I'm sorry. But I think you guys know that I was the guy that put together the group that brought AAA to America in 1993.
Yes.
I had an entertainment lawyer who was one of my listeners, ironically, named Ronald Scholar. And Ronald loved lucha, and he wanted to bring lucha to the United States. So he contacted me, and I reached out to Dave Meltzer, who put me in touch with Conan, who then put me in touch with Antonio Pena. And then we had a meeting, and we brought AAA to the United States in 1993 and had one of the largest gates of 1993, the third largest of that entire year under WrestleMania and SummerSlam, when we drew over 12,000 people to the LA Sports Arena and turned away 8,000 people for Conan and Paraguayo and Jake the Snake, who we brought in as an American Rudo to face Conan.
Well, you know what, John? That's absolutely fantastic. And I'll tell you something. I'm a Mexican-American, and one thing that I've always been really intrigued by is the history of the luchadors. I've not done enough research. I'll be honest. I'm still kind of a babe when it comes to understanding pro wrestling. I've only been doing some heavy research for the last couple of years, and I'm just starting to scratch the surface because, as you know, there's so much that you could spend a lifetime researching the many, many talents that have come into the world of pro wrestling. I am curious, though, of all these encounters that you've had over the years, even up till recently, is there one that sticks out in your mind? And I know you've been a promoter, so you're probably maybe even a little jaded to a certain extent, but is there a moment where you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm really sitting here right now? And if you can recall that, what moment was that?
Well, I mean, that was more or less, that moment came in 1991. out of everything I've ever done, it was the second wrestling convention that I promoted. It was called Weekend of Champions. And I was able to bring together under one roof for the very first time Nature Boy Ric Flair, who at that time, that was his very first ever autograph signing. And the same show, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers and Lou Thez, Superstar Billy Graham, Bruno Sammartino, Fabulous Moolah, Ravishing Rick Rude, Cactus Jack, and a variety of others that were there, Luscious Johnny Valiant. I mean, it was an amazing experience. And that was, for me, the holy shit moment was when I'm promoting a show that had both Nature Boys on it, and Bruno Sammartino was there, and he and Rogers had heat for many, many years. And a woman named Georgianne Mercropolis, who actually had ran both of their fan clubs in the early 60s, was able to bring them together for a photograph that to this day people are still very, very in awe of, because they posed together for a picture after many, many years of heat with each other. So that was the thing that sticks out in my mind as like probably the greatest moment that I had in the wrestling business was that Weekend of Champions in 1991.
Wow, dude. Well, that's fantastic. And you know what? I envy you greatly. In 1991, I believe I was little math. Okay, doing some Mexican math here in my mind. I was 8 years old. So
there you go.
I would have loved to have been there. And you know what? What's really interesting to me is that over the years, even though you've gone on to own several other businesses, you still love pro wrestling. And if you didn't, you wouldn't be doing this show. So I'm really, really curious. And I know this is a crazy fast forward, brother, but what now in the world of pro wrestling excites you? Like, do you see anything? We had some callers a little bit earlier talking about AEW. We had some people talking about MLW. We had some people talking WWE. We had some other people talking fantasy wrestling. So what in the world of pro wrestling now gets you excited? Are you watching anything, or are you still more caught up kind of like in what the history of it is and just learning as much and sharing as much as possible as you can?
Well, I never stopped watching it, and I still watch it to this day. Matter of fact, my nephew, who just moved here to Nashville from New York to help me with the projects that I'm about to start that involve pro wrestling, I still watch it. So the things that get me excited today, first and foremost, is Ronda Rousey.
Yes.
Ronda, in my opinion, was somebody that has brought into the wrestling business from Ultimate Fighting, and Ronda is probably the most amazing performer and athlete that I've seen enter the business in decades. She's believable.
Thank you.
She's incredible. She's believable. She's legit, and she is a star. So having her in the business is exciting to me to see. AEW with the money that's behind that group, with a major franchise sports owner.
Yeah, the cons.
I mean, they can make waves. All they need is the right TV deal and a couple of key acquisitions, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I think it's healthy for the business. I know that the WWE is the king on top of the mountain. And it's great because Vince McMahon, over all these years, has built a family business that is now a public company that's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. But AEW coming in is going to be really exciting to see what happens with them. And I'm also really excited about just the ability in today's environment to have gentlemen like yourself do these podcasts. The Twitter stuff, which was foreign to me up until November, I never really wanted. I mean, when I left the business, I left it. But what's getting exciting to me now in today's environment is the fact that everything is instant. You could do your podcasting, you could have your YouTube shows. There's a lot of opinion out there. There's a lot of back and forth. And the product itself, I think, I don't get too excited about a lot of the stuff that I see, because I still go back to the days of promos should be unscripted, in my opinion. That just let these guys go. If they could talk, if they could promote, let them go. Don't write every word that they say out of their mouths. Don't have that on a piece of paper as a script. It was much better back in the day when that wasn't happening. And that brings the fans in and suspends that disbelief. So that not enough of that happens today. But there's some incredible performers in today's business. AJ Styles is one of the best there is. I still really love Daniel Bryan and what he's doing. But the women's division, I mean, that's where the action is today. There's Charlotte. There's Becky. There's Ronda. There's an incredible array of incredibly talented performers out there. And that's what gets me excited about watching wrestling in its current state.
Dude, that's awesome. It's so funny. Joe, I want to have you jump back in here. I know it's still kind of my turn, but dude, when he said Ronda Rousey, when John said Ronda Rousey, I heard you get all excited because I know we were interviewed by Brady Hicks, also a very recognizable and well-known pro wrestling media figure. When we went on his show, it was a blessing to be on there, so shout out to Brady. But he was like, so WrestleMania main event, right? Which I was like, come on, really? This is the shit you're gonna ask me about, dude? But whatever. So we answered the question. It was funny because Joe came on before I did. I was actually working at the time, so I came on and I gave the exact same answer as him. And basically, the answer I gave was like, yo, if as of right now, the surefire main event for WrestleMania is Ronda Rousey in some capacity. And Joe basically said the same thing, and I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that. So, Joe, why don't you jump in? Because I know that was something that got you pretty excited as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the reason why is because if you go on Facebook to a lot of the wrestling groups, you hear a lot of negativity towards Ronda Rousey. And I don't quite get the negativity. You know, they say that she's not good on the microphone, and they say that they want her to get beat and whatnot. And I'm like, you know, Ronda Rousey is somebody that came from the UFC, and she obviously has a lot of passion for professional wrestling. She's there every single week, and I don't get some of the negativity that Ronda Rousey gets.
Yeah, I don't understand the negativity either with Ronda, but I guess people love Becky so much and Becky's so over that it doesn't matter who's against Becky. Ronda is Ronda's just stuck in a situation where the fans have just totally gone crazy over Becky Lynch. So that's why she's getting the hate that she's getting, I think, in my opinion, and that's unfortunate. But you know, I think at the end of the day, I really feel that it's gonna really come to a conclusion, hopefully at WrestleMania, and there'll be a women's main event, you know, at the top of the card, which is the time is right for that to happen today, and hopefully the fans will turn and respect Ronda. I mean, Ronda deserves respect, and you don't have to love her, but you got to respect her, and booing her and showing hate towards her. I mean, that's not something I agree with. You know, everybody has the right to free speech and whatever their opinions are. But I just think Ronda Rousey is just something. Is someone in the entire world of sports that is an elite athlete, and she's doing nothing but great things in WWE.
I would totally agree. You know, women's wrestling has came a long way in the WWE and the independents, and I definitely would not be surprised if you did not see a female queen of the ring, not king of the ring, but queen of the ring.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to see that myself.
Definitely. Definitely, absolutely. All right, Renee, go ahead and take it back, sir.
All right, no doubt about it. And I just want to give a big FU to the people on the Facebook live feed, because I basically asked the question, Fireball or Smirnoff, and everybody was like both. And I don't know if you know this, John, we like to have a few drinks during the show. It's the kind of show we have here. I'm sure that if you're
enjoy, my friends, enjoy.
Hey, you know what? We like to have a cold beer every once in a while, so it's all good. It is indeed. Well, listen. That aside, I do want to get back into this because I'm curious. I watched the whole interview with you and Vince, not knowing a whole lot about you, and that's just me being 100% honest. And I could not believe how well you handled the 27 years. The interview I thought was pretty smooth, but it sounds like, from my perspective, that you kind of got a bad rap. And you even mentioned it in that interview where you felt like guys were taking shots at you unjustifiably. And one thing that stuck out to me, man, and honestly, like, I almost came to tears when I heard you talking about this. And I want to make sure I highlight it because it kind of ties back to my heritage a little bit. I know that in American culture, and by the way, I'm Mexican. That's where I was born, but I'm a very proud American at the same time. We don't have the habit of putting our elders into like retirement homes and things like that. We take care of our people, you know what I mean, till the very end. And one of the things that I think that you talked about that hit home with me the most was that in the past, before you guys got to this point in your relationship, because I know you and Vince at least are now on better terms, he had said something that I think would have probably brought me to a point where I would have wanted to punch a guy in the face. And you being Italian, I know that's probably not that different with you. And at one point, Vince had said, when you're talking about a guy who lives with his mother, so and so and so and so, come to find out in this interview with Vince, you didn't live with your mom. Your mom lived with you, and you took care of her pretty much her whole latter part of her life. And I have to say, John, and I know that's not wrestling related, I admire you greatly for that. Because in my culture, in the Mexican culture, and again, I'm still a very proud American. I'm legal, ladies and gentlemen, so don't call ICE on me, okay? I find it very, very admirable that you were able to go through that and everything that you went to in the world of pro wrestling while still taking care of your mom. And that's really not a question. It's more of a statement. Dude, that is incredible. And that is so awesome. And I wish more people would take that and run with it, because our elders, just like Joe, I know your dad, you know, you still take care of your dad and stuff. That's so important.
Yeah.
The elders are the ones that pass on. I know the internet's there. I know the Google's there, guys. But there's nothing like getting that knowledge, that wisdom from the elder statesmen in our community. And John, you did that, man. Just for a moment, if you wouldn't mind, could you talk to us a little bit about that relationship and kind of what your mom thought about how your aspiring career in pro wrestling while she was still with us?
Well, I mean, my parents supported me. I mean, they were separated. They were divorced early on in the marriage, but they really supported what I was trying to do in the wrestling business. My mom was not just physically ill, but she also suffered from schizophrenia and some severe mental issues that really plagued her her entire life. But I mean, they were very supportive. I never forget my mom. Like when I started the Freddie Blassie fan club, and I needed a typewriter at the time. That, you know, money was tight in our household, and she made sure that her, you know, could talk to my father and, you know, Johnny needs a typewriter. He wants to, you know, and she was instrumental in getting that done for me. And my dad also supported me when I started the newsletter, because at his job, and he was an overnight trucker. I mean, he worked on a loading dock in New York, and in the office they had a Xerox copier. So he, you know, the first person I had to run off the newsletters for me, you know, wasn't able to do that anymore. My dad just like snuck into the office where he worked and was able to make the copies of my Freddie Blassie newsletter for me. So both of my parents were supportive. And both of my parents suffered in ill health towards the latter part of their lives. So it was kind of me, you know, just kind of paying them back and helping them out and just sure that there was a roof over my mother's head, and she was taken care of. I mean, that was just something I did. And when that happened with Russo, and he kind of like, and he admitted like he didn't realize or even care about what was going on in my life, because he had a wife and a new baby, and he was trying to keep a roof over his head, but he never kind of looked at it as far as what I was going through at that time. But you know, my mom, you know, unfortunately, I mean, I had you know, we took care of her, and even my younger sister, and we had all moved down to Tennessee and brought my mom down here, and you know, at the very end, we had to put her in a assisted living facility, but we were still there with her every day until the day she passed. So it's just kind of what you do, whether, you know, you come from your heritage, which is a very proud heritage, being Mexican, or myself being a proud Italian that I am. It's something that you do, and it's something that maybe today doesn't happen as much.
Well, there's no doubt about it. And, you know, I know that people tune into this show to listen about pro wrestling, but if there's something that we're about here on the show, bigger than pro wrestling, it's family. And I think it's important for people to hear that message, and we want everybody to walk out after listening to Wrestle Talk podcast, whether you listen to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the whole show. We have certain beliefs, and that's one of them. You support and you stick with your family to the very end. If they get to a point where they're sick and they need assisted living and constant nurse supervision, that's understandable. But don't forget about your elders, ladies and gentlemen, because that's where the wisdom comes from. And that's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, because John Arezzi said so. Last question before we close out this interview, John, is after listening to the full interview, man, where do you and Vince stand now? It sounds like you pretty much absorbed everything that he said. I think there were some things that you were still like, I'm not really 100% sure about that, but I'll still go ahead and take it because I want to put this behind us, man. What was your overall kind of take from it? Are you happy you did it? And where do you guys stand as far as your communication and relationship today?
I'm absolutely grateful that he gave me the opportunity to talk this out with him. So I think that experience and that entire interview and that entire podcast was therapeutic for not just me, but for him. And later on, I was in Denver over the holidays for Christmas with my family, and Vince lives out there. So I had breakfast with him and with my nephew Dominic, who has been a huge wrestling fan and is now in Nashville, going to be helping me with wrestling projects that I'm going to be doing. He met Vince, and my take on Vince Russo today is that I totally turned the page and forgiven him. I wish him nothing but the best in his life. I think he's kind of in a place right now where I actually feel like a little bit sad for him, because he seems to be trapped in the wrestling world, and I think he's been remorseful, especially with some of the relationships that are almost irreparable. That no one wants to, go on his show and confront him and talk it out like I did. I mean, I only did it because I needed to. I needed to clear the air. I needed to right the wrongs that were said about me, and that, especially that part about my mom. So I feel like I accomplished what I needed to in that interview, and I want to thank Matt Kuhn for setting it up with Vince, and to this day, I mean, there's no hatred, there's no bitterness, there's no nothing other than I wish him well, and that's all I have to say about it. I mean, I know that he's got feuds with so many other people in the business, and the Dave Meltzers and the Wade Kellers, and that's one thing I told him before we did the interview. I said, I don't want to talk about no one else. I want to talk about us, and that's it. Because what his feuds and his relationships with anyone else in the industry have nothing to do with me.
Well, you know what? And I respected the hell out of that, John, because ultimately you can only speak for yourself. And truly, it was a joy. As I mentioned earlier on in the show, man, I still consider myself to be a novice at this. I'm learning. I grew up down in South Florida. Shout out to my folks down in the 561. And I grew up as a basketball fan. And thanks to Joe and others, my man Sonny Money from Philadelphia, they were like, yo, wrestling, you need to check this out. You got the personality and the voice for it. You need to peep it. And now that I'm so far down this rabbit's tunnel, I come to your interview with Vince, and I said, you know what? John not only took it like a man for an extended period of time, he came up to defend himself and you know, kind of face his opposition face to face. And then, dude, the biggest and coolest thing that I thought, aside from what you did for your mom, was the fact that you lost a ton of weight. And so I want to just touch on that before we close this thing out completely, man. What inspired you?
Yeah, and I want to make another point. You know, when you're ready, I do want to make another point, because that was kind of the catalyst for what's going on with me today.
Bro, go ahead.
You know,
make it
nephew,
now. Let's go.
My nephew, are we clear to talk?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, sure. Okay, I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, my nephew sent me that podcast that he disparaged me a little bit in that, and that's what was the catalyst. And that's the day I started my Twitter account. And I had no clue, not a clue about how popular my Twitter page would become so quickly, and how many people reached out to me from X-Pac to Conan to Sabu to Mick Foley, Cornette. Everyone else is like, they're all reaching out to me, and everyone has embraced me as far as my little re-entry into pro wrestling. And basically, I have to credit Russo for getting me on there and getting the fire back in my soul a little bit about wrestling. Is that now I am going to create a platform that, you know, I'm fielding some offers right now from some really cool people in the business, and to share, you know, my archives, my films, my photos, my videotapes of hundreds of wrestling matches when I was a promoter that people have never seen before. So now I'm kind of re-entering the business with a whole new brand opportunity, and that includes a book. And all of this has happened since the end of November. So this is going to be a very pivotal year for me as I make my return into pro wrestling with a number of different platforms that are really going to give the fans a lot of enjoyment, because it's all going to be nostalgia based. It's all going to be history, and it's going to be the content to back up the stories, which I can't wait to share with everybody once I decide which way I'm going to go with it, because a lot of people are contacting me right now about wanting to do business with me.
That's awesome. And that's
I thank Vince Russo and Matt Coon and my nephew Dominic for that, because I had no clue.
Freaking crazy Italians, I'll tell you what. and you know what? I wanted to follow that up by asking this, man, and just real quick, your phenomenal weight loss story. And I know you said during that interview that you used to wear sunglasses, and you know Vince was like, well, that's kind of part of what made me think you were a douchebag, right? And I know you don't wear them anymore, right? But it's also like, what inspired that, John? Like, what made you decide, you know what, I'm going to take my health into my own life, into my own hands, and change some things? And you look fantastic, man. I dare to say you lost 150 pounds since, you know, the old days. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, over 100 pounds since I got out of wrestling in '96. I mean, a lot of this, you know, I'm still fat. I'm still like big guy. I'm not.
Still
like
loves lasagna and calzones. That's what.
I love my lasagna, my friend. I could make a fucking mean lasagna right now. But anyway, I mean, it's stress. Once you relieve that, once you decompress, and once you lift stress off of your life. Like when I was in the wrestling business, I saw my weight escalate just tremendously, and it was unstoppable. And it took me, like, once I got out of it, that's when I changed my name, and I just changed my life. I reinvented myself and got a job, started making some money, was able to take care of my family better, and slowly and surely that weight just came off, because I wasn't eating out of depression or eating out of like stress eating. And it just was kind of a change of lifestyle. So that's what I attribute that to. I mean, and I thank you for the compliments. I really do. I appreciate that.
Well, you know what? It's well deserved, John. And, you know, one thing that we like to do here as we close out this fantastic interview is welcome you to join us for a little bit of a therapeutic session. And for a lot of people, it's a little difficult because it's called the shoot and shout. And we give everybody that comes on, we've had an opportunity to do this with Paul Orndorff, Tully Blanchard, Savio Vega, ACH, and the list goes on and on. But it's 30 to 45 seconds, all in good fun, where we get to unleash a little bit of our frustration, wrestling related or not, in a bit of a therapeutic session, as I mentioned before. So, John, we'd be honored if you would join us on today's edition of the Shoot and Shout segment. Will you do us the honor?
Well, I've not heard it before, and I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I'll let it fly. Go right ahead.
He's a betting man, ladies and gentlemen. Entertainment, hit the music, baby. Let's get in the Shoot and Shout tonight.
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up. Everybody sucks. You don't really know why, but you want to justify.
All right, Renee, who's starting it off?
Well, listen, Jonesy, if you're ready, why don't you fire away, man?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I can definitely start it off. First of all, the echo is crazy. I don't know who's doing the echo, but anyways.
Hey, Jonesy, I think that's you, man. Take it off speakerphone, bro. Take it off speakerphone.
I'm not on speakerphone.
Oh, dang it. All right, go ahead with your shoot and shout, man.
Anyways, I would have to say that my shoot and shout of the night is the fact of the whole hatred towards Ronda Rousey. I've already talked about this, and the fact that Becky Lynch is like, I love Becky Lynch, but I think that she's getting way too much hype right now. They just need to slow it down a little bit. She's getting way too much hype, and before you know, she's gonna hit that plateau, and then it's gonna be all downhill for Becky Lynch. That's all I gotta say. Not my best shoot and shout, but there you go.
Unmuted.
I no doubt about it. Well, I'll tell you what my shoot and shout is tonight. My shoot and shout is about the fact that I wasn't here last week. I let myself down, Jonesy. I didn't show up. John, 232 episodes, and I missed one last week because I couldn't get my mind right. I'm having separation anxiety. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, you ugly. You know what? I'm so bad, I'm cussing in Spanish. I'm like, hijo de puta, come mierda, te voy a dar un putazo en la cara. I'm so upset, I'm cussing myself in Spanish. I am committed to the Wrestle Talk podcast and the Wrestle Talk podcast family, and I failed you guys last week. I'm upset with myself, but you know what? We are back tonight for 232, and things could not get any better because we are talking to the legendary John Arezzi. That's my shoot and shout for tonight. John, close us out and close us out strong, brother.
Hey, man, my shoot and shout has got to be related to the weather I'm experiencing here in Nashville right now. On the television, we just got a tornado warning. So I'm a little upset about that. Not about the business, the fact that, you know, I'm in a place right now that could be hit by a tornado like in any minute here in Nashville, Tennessee.
That you know what's
crazy? To get to my safe place, we have a tornado closet here, so that's where I'm going to be heading based on what the news reports are saying right now. That is going to be hitting here in about 5 or 10 minutes. Kind of insane.
You know what I admire? How chill.
Risk of living in Tennessee.
John, you're so chill during your freaking shoot and shout.
I'm not scared of anything. You know, I tell you what. I mean, if the good Lord is going to take me today with a tornado, that's what's meant to be. So nothing bothers me, nothing scares me, nothing upsets me. I'm an old dinosaur that has seen it all, so I can handle just about anything. So nothing frightens me, actually.
Hey, you know what? John Arezzi is cool as a cucumber in the middle of some sort of F5 tornado, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, what would I do if I was in the middle of an F5 tornado? And this is the only thing I could think of.
Exactly.
Shout out to Joey
Styles.
Styles. Hey, John, one last thing before you go, man. We want to thank you for being here, dude. We want to welcome you as the newest member of the Wrestle Talk family. We truly, genuinely hope this is not the last time that you will join us on the show. We're looking forward and excited to see what it is that you bring to the pro wrestling table in 2019, because you've got an archive that I think Jim Cornette would be jealous of. But before you go, dude, do us a favor and tell us how people can follow you on social media, because I know your Twitter, as the youngsters say, your Twitter is on fleek. So go ahead and pimp your stuff, man.
All right, man. Thank you so much. I mean, right now, the only two platforms are Twitter and Instagram, and both of those are at John Arezzi. That's at JOHNAREZZI on both Twitter and Instagram. But I'll be starting a Facebook page really soon, and then there'll be a website, and you guys just log on to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Keep following shows like this, and I'll be more than happy to do the show again when you'd like me to return.
Absolutely. It would be an honor and a pleasure. Jonesy, why don't you say goodnight to John Arezzi, man?
Oh, man, John, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I wish we had more time. You're definitely more than welcome to come on anytime that you want to. And let's just say you are now a part of the Wrestle Talk podcast family.
Awesome, guys. Thank you guys so much. It was great to talk to you.
Grazie, John. Grazie.
Grazie.
Buongiorno, buongiorno. Why don't you hit John's music on his way out? Because I know he's walking out of the Wrestle Talk podcast doing his Ric Flair stunt. Woo! Intern Timmy, hit the music one more time, bro. I love his intro, bro. Kansas, dog. Come on, man. You don't get no better than that. Hit the music, Intern Timmy. Woo!
Wrestling fans, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat talking at you, and you're listening to the Wrestle Talk podcast.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We had so much fun with our last guest that we didn't even have time to take a break. We are just a couple minutes before our second guest, and I wanted to take this time to say what I need to say about this former group that's not around anymore. And, you know, I'm going to try not to be emotional about this, but I may not be able to. The FWWC has been like a home to me. Let's just put it that way. It's been like a home to me. We allowed the FWWC to come on to the Wrestle Talk podcast with myself and Rick. And I got to know everybody. I got to talk to everybody. And then I joined the group, and it was by far the greatest thing I have done besides marrying my wife. That's the greatest thing that I've ever done, is getting married. But, you know, and some of the memories that I have had in the FWWC, like, for instance, the first Universe Mania, my dad was in the hospital, and I broke down in tears, and I had so many people praying over me. Renee was there, and just the love that I got in the FWWC is something that I will absolutely never in my life forget. And, you know, I'm really, deep down, I'm saying that I can't believe that this is the end. But Renee, I know you're listening, And dude, we can't let the FWWC fall like that. We can't let outta do this to the FWWC. We need you to come back, sir. So, you know, just come back, man. Give us the FWWC back, man. That's all I gotta say.
Well.
All right. Whew, okay. Damn it. Who the hell's cutting onions in this place? Whoever's cutting onions, you need to stop. Stop cutting the onion. Stop cutting the onion. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into another caller. We have callers. If you want to, you can call in real quick. 657-383-1521. We'll give you, about 30 seconds for that? 60 seconds?
No, well, you know what? It's all good. I think Pinky will understand, that there's some people that want to kind of get some thoughts off their chest. We'll have a few extra minutes after 9 o'clock, 9:30, or actually 10, I should say, when the show is set to end. But before we get there, do me a favor, man, and just drop any song for 30 to 45 seconds. If you guys are watching the show, Jonesy's had a few Miller High Lives. I've had a few Miller High Lives. And if I don't use the restroom right now, it's going to turn into a damn forest fire around here, which I will be obligated to pull out and put out myself. So why don't you give me a little music so I can go and take this restroom break, because it's serious right now. Hit the music, and we'll come back with a few callers from the FWWC and whoever else wants to call in, and then we'll jump into my man Pinky. So why don't you go and hit that enter, Timmy, and I'll be back in about a minute and 15 seconds.
E tutto fermo tranquilla per arrivare da qua là ci vuole culo perché qua non c'è nulla che fila, sempre solita trafila che davanti di ragionare con positività che la fortuna è fila, arriverà la macchina sportiva, soldi fame e figa, perfino la servitù con la filippina che tira, ma con l'aria che tira nicchia fatica, fatta allargare il culo, cosa almeno t'abito, e tutto ciò dipende da te mica, dalla tele del premier che preme, lui teme, le mette le creme, faccia il suo teme, mette catene, ma il tuo voto lo tiene, perché pensi che una persona sfuggita, quale senso di giustizia quando fare un senso erotico, politica del male ci rimane il malinconico, sofficelli grigi, pochi prodigi, che proprio sono a prodio, sono del signor prodigo, ma quella che scusata non faceva prima pazza, comico, come la russa ballarò, votati per dire no, in tv la Lega Nord non so più, in realtà il suo nome è comico, e forse Italia siamo tutti contenti, fino a quando non c'è punizione a un pedofilo, sai con me, passo passo, comico, poi con l'asso, forico, magari mi colgo, e dovreste così prepotenti, se la senti, il Parlamento tutti santi, come no, c'è un altro povero e chi per vendetta, e sono pugni, ascolti liga, poi ti lega, non ti vergogni, distruggete i nostri sogni con le forze strozzate, oggi contro chi ci ha buffato di speranze, si imbrogli, stronzi, e presente la mafia, oltre allo Stato, parlo del fatti del sud, e di perfino in passato, chi di pugnale le spalle, porti di sangue, se tomi, non vi distinguiamo, vengo dal posto dove la bocca non crolla, la scippano, dove ogni famiglia barcolla, in bilico, tra un lavoro che è una zavorra, il politico con la filastrocca della camorra.
Okay, I must say that was a awesome great song, but if you asked me what they were saying, I could not tell you what they were saying.
Hey, I can tell you. I speak more than one language. Oh, geez, Louise, man, I feel 3 pounds lighter. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the show. Okay, I did hear that you had a caller on the line, Jonesy, so let's go ahead and bring him on.
Yes, that's good. I told you people stop cutting onions in this place. Stop cutting the onions. Anyways, take Westbrook What is up, sir? Welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Hey, Nate. What's up, Nightmare? So you got done talking about how the first Universe Mania happened with you felt loved and appreciated.
Yeah.
What I want to come on and talk about is my very first trip was last year for Universe Mania 4, and that was with me, you, your wife, and Hardcore Fist. We drove all the way from West Virginia, 17 hours, all the way out there to Kansas City.
I remember that.
I met a very nice man, and I just want him to understand. I understand that he's going through things, and I'm here for him, and I love him just as much as a true brother would. And I'm out here just pretty much wanting to try to tell him we need the FWWC, that we would love for him to come back, but you know what, we'll respect his ultimate decision and whatever he wants to do. But I just want my voice to be out there to know that he is truly loved and we want him back.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tank. Wow. Strong words. Strong words from Tank. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the jungle. To the jungle, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only. What's up, Battle Cat?
What's going on, my dude? I'm gonna tell you, man. My shooting shout was real.
What you got for us?
My shooting shout was real.
Wait. Will, don't do that. If this man is gonna do a shoot and shout, we gotta hit the music. Intern Timmy, cue up the shoot and shout music, because we gotta give my man Will a little bit of music if he's gonna shoot and shout here tonight. We love the energy, we love the passion. Okay, so hit the music. Let's get into Will's shoot and shot for this evening. Intern Timmy, you know what to do.
It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up. Everything is...
All right, sir, take it away.
It seemed like anytime I'm out driving, right, every street I turn down, there's a damn accident. Like, where the hell did these people get their fucking license from, man? I mean, seriously. Like, traffic, backed up for a while or whatever. Like, or you got to detour and go around it and waste more gas and take the extra longer route or whatever. Shit's crazy, man. It really is. I hate it. I'm going to start walking. Fuck it, you know?
Well, listen, Will, you and I are both from Florida. You're from the West Coast. I'm from the East Coast, bro. It be like that in Florida. I mean, you think about it, national news, everything that happens crazy usually happens down in South Florida, bro. That's your choice. You chose to be down there. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know. Maybe you could move up to Kansas City. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know. I got to get used to what kind of weather I would be dealing with first, but you know, it's kind of hard to get used to that down here because you can't really simulate it. You can't simulate fucking snow in like a dry ass place like Florida. I mean, it's just impossible, really. I mean, I can go sit in the ice box. I mean, that's not gonna really help anything.
Legit out here, bro. Legit.
Maybe you can go sit in the ice dungeon.
The ice dungeon.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wait a minute. I do believe we got a drop for that.
Got him.
You know, it has been so long, I have forgot about that, honestly. But, I mean, my favorite memory of the whole FWC, I gotta say my favorite thing was the time when the whole FWC was gunning for me with that little promo challenge. I mean, that shit was like, it was crazy, man. It was great. I loved it. Everybody was trying to come at me. It was like me versus the world. Remember that? I'm like, man, I miss those days, though, man. Miss the FWWC. Miss everybody that's in it. That's there is not there, you know. I miss everybody, man. I'm getting emotional. Let me stop.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Battle Cat. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful thoughts and your memories and whatnot. They want people still cutting onions. But they're always cutting onions. All right, let's go and get in the last call before we get on to our second guest, and that is the only one half of the former FWWC tonight, Marcus Mayhem. What's going on, Marcus?
What's going on, guys? What's up?
Marcus, what's up, Bobby?
What
Where you been, man? I missed you, bro.
What's going on, big dog?
What's up, homie? Miss you, man.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm listening to, everyone, talking about the FWWC, and, I personally, I love it. I'm sad to see it go. I wish it would come back. Whatever's possible to make it happen. Everyone's willing to do it, but, like I think sometimes all things come to an end. And, I'm not going to be sad about this to a certain extent because I want to focus on the memories that we've had. And, Battle Turd was talking about, some of his favorite memories. Some of my favorite memories is the feuds between me and Battle Roach. I mean, it was epic. I'm telling you. It's funny to this day. Me and Battle Cat always going back and forth. Everyone loves to see that.
Absolutely.
And I gotta say something to you, Renee. Next time I come up, man, you gotta take me to that restaurant. You gotta take me to that spot again.
Port Fonda.
The food was great.
That was a great lunch, man. One of my favorite lunches that I ever had, dude. That was cool as hell. Can't wait to see you again, Marcus.
I'm telling you, every time I come up there, man, I let him know, hey, I'm coming up there. I'm coming home. He always takes good care of me. He's always, been like my brother, always and forever. It's nothing but love, and whatever goes on, whatever goes down, he knows I'm gonna have his respect, his love, brotherhood is all gonna be strong no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
All right, just like Battle Cat, I'm gonna be out because the onions are starting to get to me too.
That's right. Man, a lot of people cutting onions tonight, Night Owl. A lot of people cutting onions. I don't get it.
Well,
but I understand why. I understand why they're cutting the onions. They're cutting the onions because we don't have Rick Maverick, the Devontae Curtis Rod, or Ozzy Gallagher on the show tonight. That's why they're cutting onions. I get it now. That will never get old.
Well, listen. We do have Pinky on the line, and we're gonna get him on, and we're gonna give him his just due. But pretty much everybody's called in tonight. We haven't heard from Enchantress. We haven't heard from Savior Saint. We haven't heard from Funky Flex. From what I understand, he's back. We haven't heard from Julius Cairo. We haven't heard from Heel Deal. We haven't heard from Robert. We haven't heard from Big Papa Kurt. We haven't heard from Fallen. We haven't heard from a lot of people. But I imagine that the sentiments are the same all the way across the board. I'm sure you guys thought I was going to throw some shade, but that's not what my intention is. And we will again get to Pinky here in just a moment. I've heard everybody tonight, and I've seen all the posts and seen all the hashtags, and it's kind of crazy because like my inbox, the Wrestle Talk Podcast fan page on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. People are even popping onto my private Snapchat, which not like everybody gets to friend me on Snapchat. Like I only choose people that are like legitimately like cool with me. Not that I'm not cool with everybody. I'm cool with everyone, but what I mean is like my intimate circle. You know what I mean? I guess I feel obligated to respond. And then a little earlier, I know I teased that Tristan had asked a question, and I want to respond to it wholeheartedly. The people, I think we've had 10, 12 people call in tonight talking about the FWC, and a few others talking about it on the Facebook live feed, which, again, guys, if you really love Wrestle Talk, like, share it, tap the thumbs up, tap the heart. We love to see that stuff go across the screen. It means everything to us. If you're listening to the replay, then give us a rating, share it. You know what to do. And I'm going to talk to you, Joe, if that's cool, because I think it's easier for me that way. I'm going to try to keep this brief. So I ran a fantasy wrestling group for 5 years. 5 years, the day of Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people didn't know that my 5-year anniversary with the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group, was Royal Rumble 2019, right? At 34 and a half years old, everything that I tackle it with a tremendous vigor. I set goals. It's very important in that journey. And thank you guys that are tapping the screen and sharing. That means a lot. But I tackle everything with a certain amount of vigor. And if I don't feel like I can put that sort of energy into it, or the energy that it deserves, I should say, then I would prefer to back away. I'll give you guys a great example. Dancing Bear Muay Thai. I took their 6-week class, awesome pair of shorts and some stuff from Coach John Thane, who was actually on here giving me some crap a little bit earlier. I did the 6-week program, and I loved it. But my work responsibilities didn't allow me to continue to do it, and I didn't want to, like, string John along and say, yeah, I'll be there, and then I won't be there. And then he, like most people do, they'll throw some shade at you in the chat or in the one-on-one convo on, like, Facebook Messenger. And then if you don't respond, then they'll start doing it on Facebook. Not that that's John, but what I'm saying is I try not to put myself in that position where people feel like obligated to do shit like that. Okay. So if I feel like I can't give myself that 100% to something, I'd rather step away from it. Okay. And so in terms of the FWWC, after 5 years, there were some things that I wanted to accomplish that we had not yet accomplished. And I said to myself, well, you know what? At this point, we haven't reached the plateau that I feel like we should be at. And me spending X amount of hours per day, hours, not minutes, not hours per day, running this fantasy wrestling group, has it really paid off the way that it should have, considering the investment that has gone into it? And I would say that when it comes to personal relationships, yes, some of my greatest and very best friends have been made through the FWWC, but at a cost. And that cost has been the negligence of myself, not only towards my job, but also towards my family. And it's very difficult to continue to justify something that takes you away from your family that doesn't bring something back. And what I mean is that after 5 years, the FWWC is still costing me money. Okay. And this is money that should otherwise be put into my family, my wife, my children, their aspirations, their dreams, because my primary responsibility is A, to teach my children about Jesus Christ, and B, is to make sure that I'm able to support them. And I felt that after a certain amount of time, I was failing to do that. And truthfully, I feel justified in my decision. There's a lot of people that are like, yo, come back. You need to come back and do this. We need you. And you know what? What's crazy to me is, and I never thought I would say this, is to a certain point, I get it. I really get it. Because as much as this group has limited me from providing, I think this group has given other people an opportunity to express themselves in a fashion that they otherwise would not have been able to do. And then in doing that, that frees them up to be better parents and better leaders and better businessmen and businesswomen. And so, like, I'm so conflicted, even to this point, even though I've made the decision that fantasy wrestling isn't what I want to do in the future. I'm like, okay, so you're stepping back to help yourself, but what about all the people that were depending on this form of entertainment as a release? So I feel like I've let a lot of people down. And it's been, especially with the overwhelming support. So at this point, all I can say is that I'm not prepared to say, hey, I'm coming back. But I am prepared to say that the support and the love and the outpour that I've gotten up to this point is something that I would have never imagined. There's people that haven't been involved in wrestling, in the FWWC, in Wrestle Talk podcast for years that have reached out and been like, what, you're shutting down the group? Really? Why? And then, you know what takes the cake, Jonesy?
What's it?
My daughter went onto the group and was like, I wish the group wasn't gone. And I've never been so conflicted. I'm here, Jonesy. I don't know if I've ever been this conflicted in my life. And, you know, the group, you know, we were supposed to have custom championship belts. We were supposed to have like a subscription-based thing, like pay for play. We were supposed to have a lot of stuff that didn't happen in 2018 that was supposed to. But a lot of great stuff did happen. And our events were a success. And we made a lot of great partnerships. I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, so those are my thoughts concerning that whole situation. I guess all I can say to try to give some closure to this whole deal is I love you guys. I've heard so many of you say that. And you know what? I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. And love trumps all, okay? Especially a righteous love. And I feel like people genuinely not only care about the group, but people are like, yo, Renee, are you okay? The flood, the attempted suicide attempt, not by me, but somebody I cared about dearly, the internal strife with my beloved wife over some of this stuff has been weighing heavy on me, man. But I love you guys. And I love, I don't know, I love wrestling. I love giving people the opportunity that could never be pro wrestlers, whether they're in a wheelchair or whether they just live in a place where there's no wrestling or they're just broke as fuck. Like, for 5 years, I got a chance to do that, man. It's an incredible thing. I can't even put it into words. And yeah, we've had issues because of the group. Ain't that the truth? It's crazy. To be continued. That said, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to transition away from this topic and move on to our final and second featured guest of the evening. We do have music, I believe. Do my best to make this transition smooth. I'm a little worked up. This is a gentleman that I actually consider to be a personal friend, also a former member of the FWWC, but more importantly, he's a guy who shares a similar belief to me. Not that that makes him a better friend than anybody else, but I respect his hustle because he went from, having a dream to pursuing that dream, the Extreme Wrestling Center and other places. And then he decided that he was like, you know what? I'm going to be a manager. I'm going to be one of the best managers, not only in the Midwest, but in the world. And then when he was like, you know what? I want to do that and I want to be a referee. He did it, and he continues to do it. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the show, this guy has now integrated himself to what I consider to be one of the hottest and up and coming associations in the United States, and that is the Kansas Wrestling Alliance. He referees for them and continues to work throughout the Midwest and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get that music ready. Let's welcome into the show the one, the only, Pinky.
What is up, Pinky? What's going on, sir?
Oh my goodness, I love that song. I found myself just jamming out right there. That is an epic song. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
That is definitely an interesting song.
It's an interesting song.
So what's going on, Pinky?
I'm not supposed to follow that. All those wonderful fantasy wrestling people, how am I supposed to follow that? That was insane. That's awesome. The love and support I feel right now.
It was insane. So, I gotta ask you, you've been a referee, you've been a manager, you've been a wrestler. What do you like doing the best? Do you like refereeing more? Do you like being a manager more? Or do you like actually in the ring wrestling?
You know, Jonesy, I've been blessed very much in this business, as have a lot of your guests that have been on here previously, and as you know, many people have. Not only have I been a wrestler, a referee, and a manager, but I've also had the privilege to be a ring announcer. I've had the privilege to be a commentator. So I've kind of dabbled in different facets of the business. About the only thing I haven't done is, book a show or promote a show. I mean, I've done that in my head. I've done that on road trips with with my pals. But I would say that I love it all. I mean, there isn't a bit of it that I don't love. But when it comes right down to it, my body really hates actually wrestling. It really takes a toll. It really takes a toll on your body. And I'm a little guy. I weigh 130 pounds. I have fragile bones, and I already have sciatic nerve damage from previous injuries, and I just have kind of brittle bones. So wrestling hurts, and I love to do it, but it hurts. So I'll go ahead and go out on a limb and say this: I love putting on the black and white stripes. I love being a zebra. I get to get in there and take some fun bumps and everything, and get choke slammed by really big people. But I will say that putting on the black and white, suiting up as a referee is probably my favorite part, my favorite aspect of being in the business.
I definitely agree with that. Being a referee, and this is exactly what I was told. Being a referee is the closest that you can get to the wrestling ring, but you don't have to take very many bumps, and you're right there in the middle of all of the action. Being a referee, I love all of the support that I get as a referee, and especially when I come out to the ring and some people cheer me, some people boo me, some people just hate the referees. I'm sure that you know exactly what I'm talking about. Doesn't matter what we do, they're going to boo us. 100%.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I find myself to be one of those referees that gets a little bit of a reaction when they come out, and it's not that I want that, because I know one of the first things you learn in the business is that the referee is there to help get the match over. It's not that he's not there, and to get the wrestlers over. He's not there to get himself over. But if it happens organically, what can you do? I mean, there's a lot of times, especially here in Kansas, and with the Kansas Wrestling Alliance, where I primarily referee and work. If I'm at a show and I saunter on down to the ring to get ready for a match, the crowd will be booing, most of them, or a couple of them cheering. I have several of my closest friends in the locker room that claim that they're in the business. They call it over. They claim that they're over, or that they're the most popular one there. But I repped a match recently with one of those people who claimed that he was the most over wrestler in Kansas,
And during his match, there was a Pinky chant. Nothing I can do about it. It just happened.
Right? Right? And as a referee, I would have to say that the funniest thing that happened to me as a referee was, it was like my first ever wrestling match that I was refereeing, and one of the ladies out there, she was an older lady, her name was Carla, and she was known to cuss out everybody. Like, she didn't care. And she didn't like something I did, so she said, "Hey, ref," and I told her.
Is that Amy Lee?
As soon as I did.
Is that, Jonesy, is that Amy Lee?
Yes.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
She looked right at me, stuck her middle fingers up and said, "F you, ref," and I was like, wow, I just got cut out. It was crazy.
Yeah, man.
It was absolutely.
It's part of being in there, man. I get the Pinky sucks a lot. In fact, somebody at one of the shows that I primarily work at actually showed up the last time I went to referee there with a shirt that said Pinky sucks. So they went out of their way to make their own merchandise to show how much they hate me. If that's not over, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. All right, well, Renee, why don't you go ahead and step on in here with whatever questions that you have, because I'm sure you have quite a few questions that you wanted to ask.
Well, I do, and you know what? Drew and I have a very interesting relationship, and for those who don't know, this is Drew, a good friend of mine. He also dubs as Hype Man Pinky, Hype Man Ref. This dude is a jack of all trades. There's a lot of traits I admire about him, but there's a lot of things about him that piss me off, which is what makes me his friend. One thing, though, that I admire about him is that he's very, very honest. So, Pinky, let's start here. We introduced you in our press release, I think was amended. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look at it. And if you want a part of the press release, just email me at wrestletalkpodcast@gmail.com, and you can always receive that press release in your email. We don't spam. We just send you one email a week, including the posters and the whole press release. It's actually pretty cool. Our man Skywalker puts those together. But the one thing that I know we were kind of like struggling with was, are you or are you not still a part of Kansas City Extreme Wrestling?
Ooh, good question, by the way. Let me see here. Let me start by saying that I am a huge proponent of KCXW. I absolutely love that promotion. I love what they do. I love all the guys over there. President Smiley is a wonderful human being. I admire him a lot, not just for his, the things he's accomplished in the wrestling business, but the things that he's accomplished in life. I think he's an awesome human being. And that guy gets kind of a bad reputation sometimes with a lot of people, but I love that man. And I think he gave me an opportunity that nobody else would give me.
Pause.
And I love.
Pause.
I love the affiliated.
Pinky, pause. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I've had a sit-down, personal, one-on-one meeting with Jordan. I've had several official business meetings, and I work with him on a regular basis. I genuinely do think the guy gets a bad rap, and I think it's hard for people to swallow that he's very, very honest. I don't agree with all his opinions. As a matter of fact, he posted something tonight that I was like, you switched up. But you know what? There's a mutual respect there because the guy is honest. And that is so, so special these days. Because most of us, as people, we work to put ourselves over. As you mentioned a little bit earlier, it's rare to find a guy that's always going to tell you exactly what is on his mind. And Jordan is that. So you can take the guy at face value. And for that reason, I will always admire Jordan Smiley and what he's done with, 5-6 years ago, what people would have called a bunch of yarders, right? And Leo D, and we talked about that a few weeks ago when he came on, and he was very adamant. He's like, I don't care what you say, bro. He's like, we might have started like that, but now we're something special. So your admiration, not only for KCXW, but Jordan Smiley, it speaks volumes to me, dude. And that's why I'm proud to work as a commentator for KCXW, because that's just the facts, dude. And if you can't take the facts, even though sometimes they may bother you a little bit, then I question your persona. I question who you are. And like I told Joe a little bit earlier, bro, you may not like a certain person, but at least listen to what they bring to the table, because that's how you can truly come up with your own assessment. It's so, so important to be open-minded, particularly with people that ruffle your feathers, because you may learn something from them. And I've learned a lot from Jordan Smiley. So go ahead and continue, Joe. I just want to make sure I said that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with everything that you said. And yeah, so Jordan is awesome. And everybody at KCXW, I really love them. I saw some clips of the show that they put on in January, their first show back after a few months out of action due to circumstances that they couldn't control. And it's awesome. I love, David Catton and the Marksman and Professor Capel and all those people. They're amazing. To answer your question, the question was, are you or are you not still a part of KCXW? The honest answer, I know we did have just a small misunderstanding about a month back or so. And I know that I've seen the projected dates that they have for 2019, and I already have dates set for those dates. So it doesn't look like at this point that in 2019 I'll be doing any business with KCXW. But I'm sincerely cool with everybody there. I love, if it wasn't for their affiliated wrestling school, XWC, with David Catton and Anna Hope and Derek Stone, I wouldn't even be in this business. They taught me everything I know as far as, refereeing, managing, wrestling, announcing, commentating. They taught me every single thing that I know about this business. So I absolutely owe the world to especially those three men. People like JT Thunder and Tommy Snow, who have been guest trainers. I mean, I've done seminars with XWC with, a guy in NXT right now called Dominic Dijakovic, Brutal Bob Evans, people that I wouldn't have been able to work with.
Matt Cross, dude.
XWC.
They had Matt Cross in too. Not that you were a part of that one, but they also had Matt Cross in, which I thought was great.
Absolutely. I did not do the Matt Cross seminar, but I was on the show that night that featured Matt Cross, and Matt Cross is an awesome dude too, M-Dog. Yeah, so I have absolutely nothing bad to say about KCXW. I don't think anybody who's anybody in this business would have anything bad to say about them. They are a wonderful promotion, good dudes, good people. I love them. They gave me an opportunity, like I said, that nobody else would. So I really wish I could be a part of their 2019 season, but it doesn't look like at this point that will be able to be done.
Well, you know what, Pinky, I can tell you something for sure. Both Jordan Smiley and David Catton listen to the Wrestle Talk podcast, and I'm sure they're going to hear your sincere thoughts. And that's really all that matters as far as I'm concerned. My second question for you tonight, man, was concerning the KWA. Since you're not working as many KCXW shows, you are working quite a few of the WWX, XWE, MEW shows. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that's something that hits close to home with me. I've had the privilege of calling the action at the 2 out of the 3 MEW shows. As we all know, Sal Sanchez, Brandon Gomez are in charge over there. They've done a tremendous job so far. What do you see, and why have you made the decision to kind of plant yourself with the KWA moving forward? Because obviously you've got to have some high hopes if you're spending your time there, considering that you've been booked outside of Kansas and Missouri over the last 12 to 16 months. So obviously you're not short of any work. You've made the decision consciously to continue to make sure that you put yourself into shows involving the KWA, and there's got to be a reason for that. So why don't you shed some light on that for us?
Absolutely. So I met a guy named Billy Simmons in 2017. He came to work a few of our KCXW shows. I think he was in a couple tag team matches, and he worked a pre-show battle royal, I think, with us. And I really just kind of hit it off with Billy. And then through conversation, that he books shows. He's a promoter in Kansas, over in the Salina area. So in 2017, I believe October 2017, he invited me out to one of his shows, which is XWE. Like I said, they run down in Salina, Kansas, and this show happened to be at the Tony's Pizza Event Center. In fact, they've also had WWE shows there, so I think that's really cool. I got to work in the same building that a lot of WWE guys have worked in. So I met Billy, and he invited me to come out to referee one of his shows, and I said, "Oh, sure. I mean, I love, going to different parts of the state and getting myself out there, getting my name out there." And so Billy invited me, and I went. And ever since then, I was part of XWE. And I was with them mainly as far as Kansas promotion, because at that point, KCXW was still in Missouri. As far as Kansas, that was kind of the one place I was working. And then just over the year of 2018, everything really just kind of blew up. They had some different seminars. They had Ricky Morton. They had Brutal Bob Evans. And, ever since then, they've been drawing in crowds. I think when they had Ricky Morton there, their crowd was 400 plus people. And it's just been growing ever since. And so eventually, a few of the promotions that were out there, WWX and Prairie Championship Wrestling, PCW, and made the KWA, the Kansas Wrestling Alliance. And so now they run shows in conjunction with each other, continual storylines that go from show to show. It's not like an invasion type thing. There's none of that. It's all three companies working cohesively together as a unit to make Kansas wrestling better, and to make the wrestling scene here, what it could be. There are so many talented wrestlers and people affiliated with the business in Kansas. Now that being said, there are a lot of people who shouldn't be in the business. I'll just be flat out blunt, like I said earlier. I'm honest. But there are so many good people here in Kansas that are in the wrestling business and know what they're doing, and they're good athletes and they're good wrestlers, and I have no doubt that some of them will be, in the big leagues someday. But I think the Kansas Wrestling Alliance is just fantastic, giving wrestlers opportunities. They have a lot of doubters too. They have a lot of people, detracting them, going against them. They had a misunderstanding with a certain group of people, and they began their own wrestling company right there in Salina. Back in the day, back in like the territory days and everything, that was completely unheard of. But I mean, they had, the cojones to actually do that. And I respect that little group that broke off and made their own company. But also those same people, they run shows up against KWA shows, or they're kind of their own thing. But, the KWA and XWE have a lot of people, a lot of factors working against them, but they always seem to shine. They always seem to come out of it as a better group, as a better locker room, as a better show. So if anybody ever has a chance to make it to one of the Kansas Wrestling Alliance shows, we have XWE that runs in Salina. We have WWX that runs out toward Larned, Great Bend, Wrestle, more western Kansas. We have Midwest Elite Wrestling. Typically they run in Osawatomie, which is, kind of a hard town to find, at least for me from Topeka where I live. I thought I was getting lost when I went out there.
Hey, it's an hour from me, so that'll tell you something. And I'm in the heart of Kansas City.
Yeah, so it's a small town kind of in the middle of nowhere. I had to take a bunch of back highways to get there. And then my phone died, and it was horrible. So I thought I was going to die that day legitimately. But so, KWA, they have an awesome thing going on. And if anybody ever has a chance to make it to any of those shows, do it. It'll be worth your time. I mean, we have fans that come from Kansas City all the way to Salina. That's a good, 3.5 hour drive, I think, right?
Salina to Kansas City, yeah, it depends who's driving. If it's the Night Owl driving, it's about 2 hours and 45 minutes. If it's some of the other members of the buffet club, it may be as many as 5 to 6 hours, because they stop at every buffet that they run into along the way.
Yeah, I imagine with Sal Sanchez, he has to stop a lot. He probably has to pee a lot.
And much like me tonight. Well, listen, I got one more rapid fire question, and I'll throw it over to Jonesy so we can go ahead and close this sucker out. You are known for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons that you're known is that you have a pretty exuberant personality on social media. One of the things that anybody who follows you on social media, whether it's Hype Man Ref, or DJ Pinky or whatever it may be, or just under your regular name, Drew Chandler, people are always asking you, dude, what is your obsession with Jinder Mahal? Let's go ahead and settle it here now, once and for all. Is that whole thing about you supporting Jinder Mahal a work, or are you really that big of a Jinder Mahal fan?
Oh my word. So I mean, I've loved wrestling and watched wrestling my entire life, and I mean, ever since I can remember, I've loved the athletes and the wrestlers that are there that don't get as much recognition. You know, I think I guess jobber would be the term for it, the term that's typically used. And Jinder Mahal was always kind of a jobber, and so like in my heart of hearts, I always think of those jobbers. I'm like, you know what? These guys are a little bit underrated. You know, they could really be somebody in this business if they were given the chance. And Jinder was one of those jobbers that was given a chance. And you know, when he won that six-pack challenge to become the #1 contender, I was like, wow, like that's kind of unexpected. He's not going to be the champion, but that's, you know, that's really cool for him. And then he won the championship, and I was like, this is why I watch wrestling. Like, I had the same conversation not that long ago about James Ellsworth when he was released from WWE, because James Ellsworth was given an opportunity that made a lot of people upset, honestly. A lot of people felt like James Ellsworth should not be in that position. He's not that good. He doesn't have the look. He's too small, whatever. But, you know, James Ellsworth is one of those people who wasn't supposed to make it, you know. But I come from it at the viewpoint of we are the people who aren't supposed to make it, you know. I'm not supposed to make it. Like, I'm not supposed to be anybody in this business. I'm not big enough. I'm too small. I don't have the right look, you know. But James Ellsworth made it. So James Ellsworth, in my opinion, and Jinder Mahal, they are me. Like, I live vicariously through them because they had the opportunity. They made the best of it. They got it done, and they did work. You know, James Ellsworth, he got to work with AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, Carmella. He got to be a part of the first ever women's Money in the Bank match in a big way. And, you know, he made it. If the people who weren't supposed to make it never made it, we would never have the chance. You know what I mean? And that James Ellsworth being in that spot made a lot of people mad. But why? People are just mad because it wasn't them. You know what I mean? So I have a special place in my heart for the jobbers. And Jinder Mahal was always a jobber. And so when he became the champion, I was just super excited. And I love Jinder. I think he's an incredible person. I follow him on social media. I'm a huge fan. It's not a work, if that's the word you want to use. I really honestly like Jinder Mahal and his grind. I think if more people had the same work ethic and grind that he did, this world would be a more place to live.
Well, you know what? I admire that. And yes, I did wash my hands after I used the restroom. Thank you very much for asking, Matt. Joe, I want to throw it over to you so that we can go ahead and close out this interview. But Drew, something I wanted to make sure that you knew, and I am saying Drew for this reason, an old friend of yours from church, Matt Ward, is actually watching the show. He's listened to the whole interview, and he just wanted to make sure that I told you what's up, that he loves you, God bless you, and that he hopes you're doing well. So I wanted to make sure I passed on that message before Jonesy took over.
Hey, Matt. Yeah, I remember you, dude. We used to play in the church band together. He played electric guitar. I played drums. So, yeah, dude, Matt, I hope you're doing well. It's been a long time since I said what's up to you. But hope everything's working out for you. And I hope, I don't know, I just hope things are going your way, man.
No doubt. Jonesy, jump on in, man. Let's go ahead and close this out strong.
All right. I have just one more question, and then we can get into the Let's Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
We gotta play again.
On Pinky's personal Facebook page, you know that he is very involved in his church, and not just his church, but the youth group of his church. He's always, you're always talking about him and always posting about, you know, the great connection that you have with the youth in the church. And I just wanted to know what those youth kids mean to not Drew, but not Pinky, but to Drew. What do those kids mean to you?
Oh my goodness, that is an awesome question. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, it's funny. Those kids hate wrestling. Like, they all know what I do. They all know, like, you know, that I travel on the weekends and, you know, I referee or I manage mostly. But they all think it's silly. Like, they all hate it. But I have a heart and a passion to see the youth of this area. I live in Topeka, Jefferson. I live in Shawnee County, but the area where I do most of my church work and most of my ministry is a county north of here, Jefferson. Not only am I a youth pastor there, I am also a teacher in the public high school there. So my entire day job is spent around teams and, you know, transforming the teams of this world into good members of society, you know, productive members of society. And also, it's my goal in life to just help the next generation come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And I know that might turn some of you away. I can already feel the Facebook Live views going down. I can already feel people turning off the replay.
Drew, listen, Pinky. Pinky. Wait a minute.
Drew.
wait a minute, Pinky. Let me tell you something. This show has had a segment called Snippets of Truth for a very, very long time. And Perry's been away for a while, who's our resident chaplain. So I want to tell you this. We don't care how many people that turns away. And I know you're conscious of that, as most people are. But if one person is watching and is affected positively by your message, which is Scripture, we're more than happy with that. So if you would do us a favor, not at this very moment, but before we close out this segment, we have not done a prayer probably in about 3 months, and I blame myself. I'm the one that's supposed to be leading the charge on that. I was the one that pushed for that segment. Many other people told me, no, are you out of your mind? And I said, you know what? I don't care, because the word must, it is the Great Commission. So before you go, we want to make sure that you do your thing and do us that huge blessing, because here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, whether it be the Shoot Shout segment, any of the guest interviews that we do, or even the FWEC that has been a part of the show for so very, very long, we want every guest and every caller to feel like they can just come on and we had Matt Haggerty on the show, and the dude is fruitier that you might as well cardboard box and put him on the shelf at Walmart. Okay, like, he is like, yo, I love my homosexual brothers and sisters, blah, 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 and we let him have his platform, and we love him for that. So that doesn't change when you're coming on and preaching the gospel, because here on the Wrestle Talk podcast with Joe and Renee, but most important, the Wrestle Talk family, it is all about enjoying the great freedom that we have here in this wonderful country. And we all heard a little bit about that last night during the State of the Union address. We have freedom of speech. The Second Amendment, the First Amendment, all the amendments are very, very important. So just feel free here on the Wrestle Talk podcast to say what you want to say, and don't worry about who's not listening, because we don't care. What we care about is the truth, and that shall set you free. I'm sure you'll agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And, you know, those teams are my life. I'm a single dude. You know, my family was a little bit of a community. I also do campus ministry here at a university called Washburn here in Topeka. And, you know, I help oversee that. And so, you know, it's just, I had a very important role model and mentor in my life when I was a young kid. But I know a lot of people don't have that. And so I want to be that role model. I want to be that person that they can look up to. And, just, you know, if I can help transform one person's life, then I've done my job. Like, even if it's just one person or multiple people, it doesn't matter. You know, the reason that I'm on this earth is to ensure that people, when they leave this earth, have a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's why I live. That's why I do wrestling. That's why I travel. I go to the places or Jesus is not. Wrestling is a company where wrestling is a business where there's a lot of good people, but also a lot of darkness, a lot of, just different entities that really can have a hold on people's lives, have a strong hold on people's, families and things like that. And so I get to go be Jesus to a world, an entire organization or business that does not know Jesus. And I mean, I've had my wrestling friends come to church with me. I've been able to pray with some of my wrestling friends who have claimed to be atheists in the past who have come to ask me for prayer. And that's because I get to make a difference in the lives of these people. That's why I do it. That's why I live. I do it for no other reason. It's not about me. I call myself, the hype man, whatever. It's not about me. I just enjoy making a difference in the world. That's it.
And you know what? You do that each and every day, especially when me and you and Buckus are cutting a promo in some random dining room somewhere, in some cafeteria. Dude, you are the freaking man. Listen, before we let you go, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to share that with us, because I know that you have that fire and that passion inside you that so many people need to come and know. And if they don't know it, they should knock it. And if they're knocking it, then they haven't tried it. Dude, before we let you go, tonight's edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge, I know you and me have a little bit of a rivalry. We like to have a verbal sparring session from time to time, but today is the day where we settle it once and for all. Night Owl versus Hype Man in the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. The question is, sir, are you game?
Night Owl, you're going down, son. Let's do this.
Bang, bang! Enter Timmy. Hit the music. Let's do this.
I love that freaking song. Here we go.
It's a good song.
Welcome to this week's installment.
We got 3 minutes, Jonesy. Hurry the hell up.
Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 rounds. All contestants are the Night Owl with Martinez and Pinky. And in a few moments, I'll ask you 3 questions about a particular professional wrestling topic. Whenever you think you know the answer to the question, just shout out your answer. The first person to win 2 falls will win tonight's game show challenge. In honor of tonight's guest, tonight's category is called one-word names. In a moment, I will give you clues about 3 professional wrestlers who all have one-word names. When you think that I know, when you think you know who I'm talking about, just shout out your answer, and the first person to win 2 falls will win tonight's contest. Are you gentlemen ready?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. This WWF competitor began his professional wrestling career in 1992 in the St. Louis area. After several name changes, he made his WWF debut in 1995. However, he was not known by his current name until his debut at WWF's In Your House Band was in October. He has gone on to win 18 recognized WWF/WWE singles and tag team championships, starred in 5 movies. No, he starred in 5 movies, and he was recently elected mayor of not.
Kane. That's me. That's all me.
Kane.
Oh, that was totally me.
No, that was me.
No, that was me. You keep drinking your Fireball. It was me.
Shut up. I only drink a little bit of my Fireball, and this is Old Duels I'm drinking. So shut your mouth. I mean, it's not Old Duels. Go ahead. Who had the right answer, Jonesy?
Okay, we're going to go to the officials. What's that? You saying? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, they are giving it to D2 Pinky.
Oh, come on, man! Garbage! I hate the officials.
It's me all along.
Oh, geez, Louise. Calm down, Tom Brady. All right, question number 2. Let's go.
Question number 2. This WWE Hall of Famer has been known by many names, including his own real name during his time in the WWE. Over the course of his career, he has won championships in who?
Christian.
Christian, but I'm wrong.
One champion. No, Christian is not it. He has won championships in ECW,
Taz.
and
Taz.
ECW.
Taz.
What you saying?
I said Taz first. Hype man, don't you try to screw me.
No.
I said Taz.
Not Taz. He, in addition to being a best-selling author, this wrestler has won all of his championships in the WWE as a mask-wearing dweller from the boiler room. He got thrown off of
Mankind.
Mankind is correct.
Yes!
Night Out has won. Pinky
Ah!
has won. It all comes down.
Take that, Pinky.
It all comes
I think
down.
about Mankind. That whole time I was thinking Mick Foley is 2 words.
Well, actually, mankind is 2 words if you think about it, man and kind. But anyway, I got the point. I should have won by now, but it's all good. We're going down to the buzzer, and you know what? I'm clutch, baby. I'm super, super clutch. I'm ready.
Question number 3. This late WWF competitor made their professional wrestling debut under the guidance of Killer Kowalski. In 1995, upon entering the WWF in 1907, they went to win 3 single championships, made Royal Rumble history, and was part of one of the most well-known factions of the Attitude Era. This person was also in a pornographic movie called One Night.
China.
China is correct. The Night Out has won
Yes!
the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. So here is your music.
Yeah, all I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never swing up. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say,
Yes!
Don't worry, Pinky. Pinky, do not worry because we do.
He cheated. He deflated the
Don't
ball.
worry, Pinky. Don't worry, Pinky. We do have music for you. Pinky. Renee had his music, so here is your music, sir. Oh my goodness. He's never gonna let you live that down, Pinky.
Never, ever. Well, Pinky, before we let you go, I'm in my cowboy hat and my USA scarf, man. 2 things before you go. Number 1, well, actually 3 things. Number 1, what are your final thoughts? Number 2, thank you so much for being here, man. You've been a huge supporter of the Wrestle Talk podcast from the very beginning. I'm not only proud to call you a colleague, I'm also proud to call you a friend. And then number 3, please drop the social media on the Wrestle Talk family.
Absolutely. So my final thought. Let's go a little bit back to a conversation you were having way at the beginning of this podcast about AEW. Just a real quick blurb. I love AEW. I like the concept. I like the people that they're getting, the acquisitions that they have released. And I think Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks absolutely, after seeing All In, they absolutely have a good concept of production value and things like that. I will say this, my gripe with the whole essence surrounding AEW is with the fan base. Because people are acting like this is some big old huge thing when they haven't even done anything yet. And I know there's still time, they have opportunities, hopefully they get a TV deal and things like that. But, there was a time when WCW was battling WWF, where throughout all of that, there was ECW, and WCW and WWF were always going to be the top, right? But there was always ECW, who had good wrestling, maybe even the best wrestling, but they were never going to be the entertainment guru that the top companies were. And I think that's what we're at now. AEW is going to have good wrestling. They won't be that big entertainment, big corporation that WWE is. WWE is so much bigger than wrestling. It's so much bigger than any of that. It's like Disneyland, right? I love AEW, I like the concept. My social medias, let's go ahead and throw my social medias out there. I have Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/ okay, so I made this in high school. Don't laugh at me. Facebook.com/InGodsHands1234. That's where you can find me on Facebook. I also have Instagram. You can find me at Referee Pinky.
Well, Drew, hype man, Pinky, I can only say, man, that I'm grateful that you were part of the show tonight. We're up to 187 comments, and we've had over 1,200 viewers on the show just live here tonight. I guess the very last thing I'll ask you, and maybe it's a little unfair, but that's fine. You're a former member of the FWWC. Everybody's been giving me kind of the business tonight and telling me how they feel about the whole thing. Any thoughts on the FWWC before we close out tonight's show?
Absolutely. FWWC became a part of my life when I really needed a group of people surrounding me. I really needed support. I really needed, friendships, because at that point in my life, I had found myself in a place where I didn't have very many. I was in transition. I didn't really know where my life was heading. And then, the FWWC came along and they provided that family for me. They provided that group of friends for me that I was really needing at that time. And I definitely think that if there is any way that the FWWC can continue, that it could. I understand El Mato will do what El Mato does, but I really believe in the power that the FWWC held. Not only just to do fun fantasy wrestling stuff, but to build friendships, to do life with people who love wrestling just as much as you do. And I think that's really the essence of it. But I do understand, Renee, that you have your issues. You have, family's always first, health comes before anything. But I think if there is any way that the FWWC can continue, I don't even know what to say. FWWC has been there for me when everybody else wasn't. So that's kind of what I got to say about that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing your sincere thoughts. We are in the process now of closing out episode 232. Thank you for joining us. Pinky, we do wish you all the very best in everything that you do. I'm not sure kind of what to respond to your last comments there, but all I can tell you is thank you so very much for your friendship. And I look forward to working with you further throughout Kansas and beyond. Because you're an absolutely wonderful human being. I consider you a brother in Christ. And honestly, dude, every time I see you, I look forward to seeing how you grow and continue to mature, not only as a professional in the world of pro wrestling, but also as a human being. So thank you for being here. And as always, bro, the Wrestle Talk family's behind you 100%, man. You take it easy out there.
Thank you so much, Renee, Joe. Have a good night. Thank you for allowing me to be on, and all of you have an amazing night. And hey, wake up tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. If you had a bad day today, wake up tomorrow. It's different. Go change the world. Have fun.
Grace and peace, brother. You take it very, very easy. All right, Jonesy, you know what, man? Close us out. Hit us with some jams. We are out on episode 232 of the Wrestle Talk podcast with Joe and Renee. You know what to do, baby. Close us out. Grace and peace to all mi gente. You know how we do. Night Owl. Jonesy, we out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an honor, it has been a privilege. One more night, ladies and gentlemen. Until next week. Peace. We love you. Night out. We need you to come back.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Thank y'all for watching. Great show. It was truly a blessing. And to all the members of the FWWC, I've heard you. Gigi, I heard you. And all I can say is, I'm going to let God decide. Good night.